woke from a dreamless sleep and looked at the clock on my nightstand. Large green numbers informed me that I had been dead to the world for 6.5 hours. I was on borrowed time, so that 6.5 hours felt like a gift from God. I rolled onto my back and stared up at the ceiling. Directly beyond the ceiling was the apartment that belonged to the man upstairs. I often wondered how it was possible to find myself in such close proximity with my greatest enemy. Mind you, I'm not pontificating here and getting all existential on you. While I readily admit that I consider myself to be my greatest critic, as any self-respecting artist would, it is without any shadow of a doubt that it is the man upstairs who is my greatest enemy. More so than even myself. Chance, fate, the wrath of Lucifer himself. These are the reasons I use to explain my proximity with the man upstairs. I got out of bed and shuffled to the bathroom. I stood in front of my sink and stared at my reflection, all too aware of the cookie-cutter construction of these damn apartments. The man upstairs, his bathroom was directly above my own. He would stand in front of his bathroom sink, staring at himself in his mirror, just like me. I turned the shower on while I brushed my teeth, all the while trying hard not to think about how long the man upstairs had plagued my existence. I told you I'm an artist. I draw, paint, sculpt. Whatever idea tickles me, I try to find the perfect medium for it. And like all true artists, my work is greatly underappreciated. I've tried to sell some of my pieces to Garrity's, but they've informed me, at least in reference to my most recent sculpture of computer parts, a piece about the eventual corruption of technology. They told me that no one would be interested in seeing, much less buying, my sculptures. The man upstairs ripped me off. I don't know how he found out about this latest sculpture, but he ripped it off just the same. 2 days ago, I saw something that looked strikingly familiar in the window of Garrity's. The man upstairs, his name was attached to it. And that wasn't the first time the man upstairs had ripped me off. He calls himself an artist, but he's nothing more than a fucking mimic. A copy. Shadow. Art is about originality, passion, heart. These things you cannot copy. You can make representations that bear a resemblance to them, but you will never capture honest passion in a work of art if you yourself are not an artist. This was not the first time the man upstairs had ripped me off. But it was his last. I finished brushing my teeth, disrobed, and stepped into the shower. The water scalded my skin. The pain was exquisite, and I savored every second of it. As an artist, I live my life in extremes. It is only through extreme pain, extreme pleasure, extreme sadness that I will ever be able to create a work of art that is ingrained with true passion. If someone knows not of these things, their art, if they insist upon calling it that, well, it's nothing more than a shallow facade. It's meaningless. The water cascaded down my body, leaving trails of burning skin in its wake. A degree or two hotter, and my skin would boil up, sizzle, and pop, melting down to my bones. At least those were the images that danced in my head. I chuckled and leaned into the flow of the water. The man upstairs never had such thoughts. He didn't have an artist's mind. Certainly not before, and certainly not now. It had been 6.5 hours since I had finished. It had been almost 10 hours since I had begun. When I had gone to visit the man upstairs the night before, he had no clue as to what the evening had in store for him. I congratulated him on his showing at Garrity's, an act that the man upstairs had assumed was sincere. But that's okay. It got me in the door. And anyway, the man upstairs wouldn't be making any more assumptions about my sincerity or anyone else's sincerity, or anyone, for that matter. It took about 5 minutes of meaningless conversation for me to summon the courage needed to get started on my latest project. Usually, when I begin a new project, I would do so with a kind of hesitance, because I always knew that sooner or later, the man upstairs would find a way to abscond with my idea. It is very difficult to pour your heart and soul into something when you know that the devil himself lurks upstairs, waiting to steal that which you have created. This time, with this project, the hesitancy was not there. And once I found my courage to proceed, I did so with nothing short of ecstatic glee. The man upstairs didn't see it coming. His back was turned to me, and I simply reached out and grabbed his throat. He struggled, yes, but I held fast. I was careful not to choke the life out of him, although there was nothing more in the world that I wanted more. I wanted him alive for later. I wanted him to know that this was one work of art he would never be able to duplicate. The hot water ran out. The temperature was lukewarm at best. I shut off the water and got out of the shower, toweled off, and walked over to my kitchen to brew a pot of coffee. Last night I had brewed a fresh pot while waiting for the man upstairs to rejoin me. When he finally awoke, the aroma of the coffee had confused him, and this had made me chuckle. The man upstairs, he could only move his head. I had gagged his mouth because I didn't want to listen to any of the vile, putrid lies he always seemed so ready to share. I sipped my black coffee while the man upstairs looked around his apartment. His eyes, they had gone inhumanly wide. I savored the cup of coffee, letting him sweat in fear, in anticipation, in pain. When I drank the last drop, I set the mug on the counter and picked up the knife I had left there. It was time to finish my latest work of art. The man upstairs screamed as I got started. No one heard him, though. From that moment, it took me 2 more hours to finish my work. Afterwards, I returned to my apartment downstairs and immediately fell asleep from the physical, emotional, and creative exhaustion. Words cannot describe the level of pure satisfaction an artist feels upon completing the greatest creative endeavor they shall ever in their entire life undertake. I was dead to the world for 6.5 hours. Now, I could hear sirens in the distance. This was not unexpected, but I hadn't been confident that they would come so soon. I leaned against the counter in my kitchen, nude, sipping my coffee. The sirens, they grew louder. The man upstairs was silent. He was otherwise incapacitated. The sirens grew louder still, and my heart rate, which had been understandably high, suddenly dropped. A calm washed over me. It was that sense that a true artist feels when he knows his work is about to be seen. That sense that the world is about to see his talent, his greatness. And then the sirens began to fade. The man upstairs did not protest this turn of events. I held the cup of coffee in my hands and realized I had an erection. As the siren slowly faded, so did my excitement. Today would not be the day that the world learned of my greatest work of art. the man upstairs. Maybe tomorrow, though. And until then, perhaps I can come up with a sequel. After all, there's always that bitch, the woman next door.